And so use the link in the description and put in your full name to join the Menti Quiz. We'll have the first round around the 6 o'clock mark. Take notes, and I hope that this will be an enjoyable experience for you. Right. So as we think about frameworks for teaching online, I want to go back to this golden circle. It's a thinking format. It's a thought experiment in one sense, made very popular by Simon Sinek, and he says that there is this golden circle, this three-part circle that we need to think about whenever we plan for something. So many times we are stuck in the outer circle, which is basically the what. What should I do? What are the tools I can use? What are the new ways I can teach my students? What are some interactive methods? What is the best latest quizzing tool? We often get stuck in the what, but more important than the what is the how. How is the methods in which we teach or we do things, the process in which we do things, and that is the inner circle called the how circle. But in the right in the center, the innermost circle is the why circle, and that many times get ignored as teachers, as we think about starting another academic year teaching online. We can get stuck in the what and maybe a little bit in the how, the processes. Many times we forget the why. Why am I even a teacher? Why am I even doing this? And so when we develop this framework, we wanted to incorporate all these three parts: the what, the tools, the methods, which is the how, and also the mindset, which is the why. And therefore, if you look at our framework, which is available on our website, vigeo.in, you will see this three-part framework, which is the mindset, the methods, and the medium or the tools. So mindset is the inner circle, the innermost part, which has 9 elements. Then we have the methods, which are another 9 elements. And then we have the medium, which is the tools we can use to implement these methods. So the mindset, the methods, and the medium, a three-part circle of the why, the how, and the what of teaching online. So this is going to be an introduction. I'll give you an overview of all these 27 elements. We have detailed workshops and trainings for all of them, and we combine many elements in our workshops. We'll give you all the details. Think through this webinar, look at your own teaching styles and methods, and look for areas you can upgrade. And we'll talk about that through this webinar. Let's start with the first one, the right mindset, which is the why. That is the core of teaching online. The first element when it comes to thinking about mindset is to know your purpose. Think about when you started teaching as a teacher many years back. Just put it in the chat. How many years have you been teaching? Just put it in the chat. Just the number of years that you've been teaching. Just the number. If it's 10, 15, 1, 3, 35. Just put it in the chat, in the YouTube chat. The number of years you've been teaching. Just think back in those initial years when you started teaching, probably your first year as a teacher. Think about that moments, that really captivated you, seeing the smile in the face of students, learning, and when somebody said, "I understood what you taught. Thank you so much for teaching us." Those moments where you celebrated as a teacher. Probably you got an award as a best teacher of the year, or things like that. Those moments that really made you feel that, yes, I am a teacher, and there is a purpose for that. Especially when we teach online, we can easily forget that purpose that drives us. I can see a lot of you saying, I've been teaching for 8, 17, 15, 12, 13, 6, 20, 9, 4, 6 years. I mean, a lot of experience in this YouTube webinar. I mean, and many of you have been teaching for 20 plus years. But when we come online and we get boggled by all these new tools, and students not paying attention, and they're not interacting with you, and there's parents complaining, salaries going down, so much of pain and suffering around us, it's easy to forget that purpose, that initial purpose, that driving force that made you step into and become a teacher. So the first element in mindset is to revisit that purpose, revisit those magical moments that really made you feel good about this profession that you chose, and always remind it. Probably write it down somewhere in a place where you can see, probably to remind yourself on those difficult days that I am a teacher because of this. You can complete that in the chat. Just put that in the chat and complete the sentence. I am a teacher because, and just complete that in probably 4 or 5 words. And let me read some of your answers. Why are you a teacher? What motivates you? What is that inner core purpose that that makes you enjoy teaching? And so it's important to understand the purpose. That is number one, and to keep reminding yourself of why are you a teacher in the first place. So we have a lot of frameworks for that. We work on Ikigai, which is you can find one of the blogs we wrote on that. It is a beautiful Japanese concept on looking at things that you love, things that you're good at, things that you can get paid for, things that really motivate your heart, and things that you want to make a difference in the world. It's a beautiful Japanese framework called Ikigai, and that's something that we use to help teachers find their purpose. Yes, many of you saying, I love teachers. I have a passion. I love the students that I serve. I get to serve them. There is a passion for me to teach. So know your purpose, write it down somewhere. Keep revisiting that, especially on tough days, especially on days where you don't feel like doing it. Revisit your purpose. Right, that's number one. Number two is to be self-aware. So what do you mean by being self-aware? Each of us have strengths and weaknesses. Each of us have that. And as an educator, we have strengths and weaknesses. It's very important to know what is your strength and to work on what is your weakness. You cannot work on your weakness unless you recognize that, identify that, and feel the need to do something about that. Recently, we had a workshop with around 29 teachers, and we did something called the SWOT analysis. It was a very awareness time to look at ourselves and self-realization that where am I strong and where am I weak? What are the opportunities that lie ahead of me? And what are some of the threats that lie ahead of me? So I want you to list these 3 things down, right? 3 strengths that you think you have as a teacher. What are you best known for? What are your best 3 strengths? Just put that in the chat. Just put a comma and write those 3. My 3 strengths are, just fill in the blanks, 3 strengths as a teacher. So it could be you are a good listener. As many of you said, I love learning. I love teaching. I love my students. It is a passion and things like that. I prepare well. My content knowledge is good. What is your strength? What is strengths that you have that you can offer to your students? I'm a good listener. I am creative. I'm a good storyteller. I can explain things well. I love the company of students, as some of you are saying. What are your strengths? Mention that in the chat. But also be thinking about what are your weaknesses. And probably the last year showed you that there are so many weaknesses that you have, especially teaching online. You might be an experienced teacher with 20 years of experience, but bringing that into an online classroom was a totally new experience. Many of you did the Teaching Gen Z with us, and many of you were able to understand many steps, but you saw the weaknesses to adapt to a new format of teaching. And that was your weaknesses. You need to work on that. Probably you're short-tempered. Probably you lose your patience very quick. Probably that relationship that you had with your students is no longer possible in an online mode. What is your weaknesses? Work on that. Knowing your strengths and weaknesses is so important. As many of you are saying, I have patience, I have a good subject knowledge, I'm good at storytelling, I'm confident, I'm a good listener, hard worker, I can teach with my heart. Wow, that's beautiful. I narrate stories, I build relationship with children, I love reading, I try to make teaching enjoyable, I'm ready to learn and change. These are amazing strengths that teachers need to have. So work on your strengths and work on your weaknesses. Be self-aware. That is element number 2. We do a lot of that in our workshops, and it helps teachers understand the strengths and weaknesses and move forward. Number 3 is self-motivation. This is where we need to be good planners. We need to make plans ourselves, especially when we are working remotely from our own homes with lunch to prepare, kids to teach, husband working from home, or wife working from home, parents at home, sickness. Maybe some of you were COVID positive, you had things to take care and then to teach. It's so difficult to do that when you don't have a dedicated workspace. And that is where this element comes into place. You as an educator, if you want to excel online, you need to make plans and follow through those plans. So it would mean being a good planner. It would mean sitting down probably on a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening, looking at the week ahead and making solid plans to move forward. Self-motivation is something that we need to develop. We may not have a supervisor, section head, headmistress, or principal always behind us, but as an online educator, we need to be self-motivated. So if you are a self-motivated teacher, can you just type it in the chat? I am SM. I am self-motivated. Or you can write, I want to be SM if you're not at the moment. So just put that in the chat. I can see a lot of good strengths coming listed in the chat, and it's amazing to read your inputs right there. So keep the chat running. It's beautiful to see your inputs coming in. So write in the chat, I am SM if you are self-motivated. Number 4 is mindfulness. In the midst of all this preparation and working with students, working for yourself and taking care of your family, preparing, learning new tools, keeping the syllabus running, and in the midst of all this busyness, it is very, very important to also step back. We need to work on our plans, and that's self-motivation, but we also need to be mindful of our limitations. We also need to remind ourselves that work is not everything. We need to remind ourselves that the digital world is not everything. There's a real world. There is real people around me. So as an online educator, you need to have that balance of being motivated to learn new digital tools, but also pulling back and saying that, no, I need to take a break. I cannot get burnt out. There are things that are important, much more important. There are people that are much more important that I need to take care of. And that needs mindfulness. That needs a digital well-being where you're very cautious about how you use your online time, to track that online time, to take digital breaks, to move and take a step backward. Let me ask you this in the chat. What do you do to relax? What's your go-to relaxing mode? Is it music? Is it movies? Is it just having a cup of tea, looking across your veranda? Is it just playing with your kids? Just calling your family? What motivates you and recharges you to move forward? There are times that we need to just stop everything, just shut that computer, put that phone away, and just relax and be mindful of where we are at the moment. It's a good time to remember about the purpose. If you have that purpose statement, why am I a teacher? Why am I in this in the first place? It's good to step back, just take a deep breath, enjoy the moments that you have, and then get recharged and come back. Mindfulness is very, very important. So I can see some in the chat saying that I listen to music, I play with the kids, meditation, painting, just sleeping, playing games. Okay. So a lot of people have different approaches to being mindful, but it's important, so important to step back and take those moments. So coffee, yes, coffee is a great relaxing for some of you. Baking, wow, that's amazing. Gardening, spending time with my plants, work in the kitchen, reading books, listening to music. Wow. So whatever that is, make sure that you schedule time for that, pull away from others, and be mindful. Number 5 is to develop a growth mindset. And this is so important. The reason is many times the reasons teachers cannot take that step forward is because when they look at their past, when they look at their experience, they say that I've not done this before. I've not done a YouTube live like this before. I've never used Prezi software before, which is what I'm using right now. I mean, it's too complicated. I'm not good with computers. I'm sure you have said that. If you have said that, just type yes. If you have ever said, I'm not good with technology, if you have ever said that, time for confession, you can say that, yes, I've said that. At some point in the last 2 years, I'm not good with technology. We often say that I'm either good with this or not good with this. And we often grade our students like that. Oh, he's not good in maths. Oh, he's good in English. Oh, his Hindi is very poor. Oh, he's not good with sports. Oh, he's not good with physics. He can never do anything in physics. We often categorize students and even ourselves that maybe I can't do this. I don't have the capacity to do that. And that's called the fixed mindset. We can get so boxed in that mindset if we get stuck there. And it's so important to come out of that and to have a learning mindset where you appreciate the process than the results. You look at the small growths that you are making rather than the big results you're getting. And that is a mindset change. If you want to excel as an online teacher, you need to have a growth mindset. I can see a lot of yeses saying that, oh my goodness, a lot of you saying that, yeah, I've said that in the past, but not anymore. Have that attitude to grow, have that attitude to learn and make those constant strides forward. And that's an amazing element to have, an amazing mindset to have for an online teacher. So in our sessions, we talk about ways to improve this growth mindset and practical steps to put in there. And so that's a longer session. We have developed a lot of this content for our workshops with ONGC, and so many of that we're using in our teacher training as well. So we can talk a lot of that in our future trainings. Number 6 is to develop resilience. Many of you were part of that resilience workshop we did sometime in October last year. And it's such an important skill to have, where you bounce back from setbacks. So when you have a setback, when things don't go the way you want to, when you try a new tool and students don't like it, when you try a new tool and your management says, no, you can't use that, when you want to try a new approach and your co-workers say that, oh, this won't work, this is too much work for us, you are making our life difficult. It is those times where you need to show how resilient you are, because every time if you have a setback and you give up, you're not going to go ahead in life, and I'm not going to go ahead in life. Resilience means how quickly can we jump back from a setback. And especially in this time where the COVID cases are going crazy, where everyone is confused of what the steps ahead, resilience is such an important mental strength to have. And there are many ways to develop that, and we talked a lot about that framework in our webinars earlier, so I'm not going to get in there, but think about this. And how can I be more resilient? Am I somebody who gets upset very fast and give up very fast? Or am I a fighter who keeps persisting into moving forward? Resilience is such an important mindset to develop for an online educator. Number 7 is to practice empathy. Empathy is something that that a lot of people define as being in somebody else's shoes. And so as an online teacher, it's so important to develop this skill, to understand what your students are going through. Think of what your students are missing. What all are your students missing? Can you just put that in the chat? What are your students missing because they are in online classes? Of course, they are getting so many new tools and so many cool new apps and gadgets and things like that. But what are they missing? And as a teacher, you need to be thinking of that. What are my students missing? Am I serving them? And am I giving them something to compensate what they're missing? If they're missing their friends, am I doing something to make sure that the friendships are built in my online class? If they're missing that fun and games, what am I doing to do a little bit to encourage them to participate in the activities that I'm planning? So empathy means looking at it from their perspective. Are they going through a tough time? Are their parents okay? Are the things at home okay? You may have a 60-member class, but you can practice empathy by scheduling some calls with them, by interacting with them, by having a one-on-one discussion with them, reaching out to them. Let you be known as a teacher who truly cares. And empathy cannot be underestimated, especially in these online forums. Students are struggling. They're missing that school environment. Their sports and their friends. Yeah, a lot of you saying they're missing the classroom environment, peer interaction, friends and peer groups and just the clubs and extracurricular activities. They're missing all of that, and digital things can't replace it. So as a teacher, show empathy towards them. And how do you show empathy? Number 8 is by active listening to things that are even not unspoken. If a student is not responding to any of your requests on a Zoom call, if they're not chatting at all, if they're not sending their assignments on time, immediately as a teacher, you might get upset. Why are you not? And you can get into that combat mode. Why are you not submitting this? And you can be a bit upset with them. But active listening is asking probing questions and trying to understand what is the underlying cause why the student is not responding. Is it because he's an introvert? Is it because because things at home are not good? Is it because the family is going through a difficult time? Is it because there is no internet, enough data packed for them? What is the underlying cause for the student? And that requires questions, that requires an interest, that requires building an environment where the student can open up for you. So empathy and active listening is something we need to invest in. And finally, in the mindset, the ninth element is to promote collaboration. Students are missing that. And you as a teacher are missing that. I'm sure that you're missing working with your colleagues, the staff room discussions and lunch together. All that is being missed now. But in the midst of that, still you can have collaboration. And we do extensive workshops on that. How can students collaborate? And if you can ask some of our previous participants, they'll say there are absolutely amazing ways where students sitting in different homes can create a drawing together, work on an assignment together, create a question bank together, and work as teams together. A lot of projects can be done as teams, and many tools are there for that. But it needs a mindset that I'm not going to just teach my lesson and give some assignment and let them complete and I'll grade them. My work is done. I'll go to the next chapter. No, as a teacher, you're constantly thinking, how can I let my students collaborate? How can there be more collaboration in the class so that what they're missing in the physical classroom can be compensated in some sense or the other? So those are the 9 mindset areas. And I want to ask you in this chat, which is an area that you would like to grow in? You can mention that in the chat. And at the same time, you can move to Menti. We'll have our first round of quizzing. And we will start shortly. Okay, so let's move on to Menti and be there on Menti as we start the quiz. Okay, so Menti is, I hope all of you are getting there on Menti. Let me just see that, right? So a lot of you are getting there on Menti. So please click on the link on Mentimeter, and you can start the quiz after that. All right, so we have 2 rounds in the Menti quiz, and so there is a 20-second delay. So don't wait for my my voice to be out there, because it will come 20 seconds late. And so 4 questions will come back to back. 4 questions will come back to back, and so be on Menti and answer those 4 questions. So question 1, around 15 seconds. Put your answer in, wait for the next question, and after the 4th question, you can come back to the YouTube live. Okay, so that's how this will work, because there is a delay. I will not be speaking. Please be on Menti, and you can look at the questions there. Please keep looking at the Menti screen. It will keep giving you questions, and you will have to answer it. There are 4 questions in this first round. Every question is timed, so answer it within the time, and the fastest fingers get more points. So the questions will keep coming. So click on the link in the YouTube chat, and also in the YouTube description. You will find these questions coming on Mentimeter. Enter your name and then keep playing. 4 questions in first round. It will come one after the other. And these are all based on what we just spoke about in the mindset part of it. So please look at the Menti screen. I can see around 85 participants are working hard on the Mentimeter. So keep doing it. We will stop only after we have completed the first round. Menti quiz is going on. Okay, questions are coming in. Okay, so some of them are quicker, so make sure that you answer it before the time ends. Okay, all right, so it's almost coming to an end here. Okay, so the first round is almost coming to an end. Be there on your Menti screen and answer the questions as it comes. All right, so this is the fourth question. Because of the delay, I was not showing you the screen. Yes, this is the fourth question, and this is how the leaderboard stands after the first round, which was 4 questions. Let's have a look at how it stands. It's going to be a very tight race. It's going to be pretty tight on the top. So we've got Shiva, who is leading with 3716, Sam, Renuka, Anjali, Ekta, Christy, Nargis, Judy, Ranjni, and Adeline in the top 10. We've got one more round at the very end. Take notes, and you will do pretty well as you do that. Right. So which is an area that you want to work on? Okay. So as we looked at the 9 mindset aspects to work on as educators. Right. You can put that on the YouTube chat. The next round is around 6:50. Just make sure that you go through all the things that I'm talking about, make notes so that you can use it for your sessions. Okay. Right. So next is the second aspect of teaching online, which is the right methods. So mindset is the why, and methods is the how. How do we teach that? And again, we have 9 elements in this, and some of you might be aware of some of them. Some of you may have used some of them, and that all will be covered in these 9 methods. The first one is, of course, asynchronous learning, and many of us are using that. We use the live sessions on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams, or Google Meet to teach to students. This is a synchronous session where I am talking to you live from this session, and this is a synchronous form of learning, and so it's important to use these sessions as fully as possible. So as I was thinking about these 90 minutes from 5:30 to 7, I had to actually break it down to every 5-minute level to see how it is going to function. Because when you're in a live class, you don't have to worry that much about planning. Because somebody might be celebrating their birthday, you might spend some time wishing them, or somebody would ask a question from the previous lesson. There would be a circular that comes in, and probably there's an announcement about the next week's cultural program. There would be somebody who didn't do the homework and is sent to the principal's office. So many things happen in a normal physical classroom. But in a live classroom, all those things are not there. Probably you're the only one speaking. Probably you're the only one whose camera is on. Maybe there is so many other things that students are going through in their own homes. Probably there's dal cooking in their kitchen, and the whistle blowing in their kitchen, and their younger brothers playing around. So many distractions in their homes which you are not aware of. And so in asynchronous learning, there's so much planning that's needed, and that's the thing that many teachers miss out. Synchronous learning means go on to Zoom and just teach as you would teach in a classroom. That's not how it works. Every minute matters. You need to divide them into blocks and apply techniques for each block and plan for each block of time so that every block moves seamlessly into the next one and the next one. And we teach that in our sessions where we talk about engaging live classrooms. Divide them into blocks and have transitions between the blocks and put in elements there so that students stay alive and alert. Right. So that's the reason we put the Menti Quiz somewhere in the middle and somewhere in the end. That's a plan. That's a very definite plan that we use there. And planning for synchronous learning is so important. So many tools you can use there, and so much of possibilities in a live classroom. Right now, I am on Prezi, connected to Zoom, connected to YouTube. What you're seeing on YouTube is my Zoom screen, but what you're seeing on the Zoom screen is my Prezi screen. So much of possibilities with technology as we know it. So that's number one in synchronous learning, looking for ways to make sure that every minute of your live classroom makes sense. Number two is, of course, the asynchronous learning. And this is so important. Students are learning much more offline than they are in the live class, and that's a huge thing. That's a good thing. Many teachers find that as an intimidation, as a competition, because there are YouTube videos that they'll understand better. There are animations that are better explain things, and so many teachers find it like very uncomfortable that how dare my students learn from somewhere else and then not learn from me. But you don't need to look at it that way. This is the way it is going to be. 4G is soon going to be out. 5G is coming probably by the year end or early next year. Internet speeds are going to go faster, and students are going to get access to information much more than before. So you as a teacher cannot compete with animations and resources online. But you as a teacher can channelize your class into using the best resources, and you can become a facilitator rather than just a teacher. You can be a guide on the side than a sage on the stage. And so that's a new possibility that asynchronous learning has opened up. School students were never exposed to this before last year, but now there's a possibility. So that needs a mindset change, and that needs a good planning so that your live sessions are complemented by good resources, either resources that you make or resources that you curate and you collect and give to your students. So many amazing possibilities for getting resources in one place. We use something like Wakelet and all that to get resources in one place and give to your students. It's so important that we use both the synchronous and the synchronous, asynchronous in learning. And that brings us to blended learning. And this is a skill. This is not something that we teach something online. Oh, I forgot to talk about it. Okay, I'll put a video, you can watch it later. That's not how blended learning works. Blended learning is a beautiful mix of synchronous and asynchronous, and the percentage varies. Maybe you're teaching smaller children, they need more of live, or maybe your children need more of recorded, and that's a decision you need to take subject by subject, season by season, lesson by lesson, maybe even student by student. Some students might prefer being in the live online class, and some students might love to learn more in the asynchronous mode. And as a teacher, you need to keep making those decisions. How much should be more synchronous? How much should be asynchronous? So can you put in the chat, in the YouTube chat, what are you more comfortable with? Creating resources asynchronously, so you can write AS, or are you more confident and you're comfortable going live like this, synchronous? So it is AS or S. Which one are you more comfortable with? Are you more in the synchronous mode or in the asynchronous mode? Asynchronous means making these resources by recording and sending it to them. Yeah. So one comments that coming in is, I watch YouTube videos and copy and mix animation in my teaching. YouTube videos serve as a skeleton to my teaching. That's a beautiful approach. You don't need to compete against YouTube creators or animation studios. You can use what's there and then be a teacher who uses this. You are curating it for your students. You know your students best, and therefore you have the best knowledge of what's good for them. So thank you, Pinky Matthew, for that. That's amazing comment that came in. So blended, yes. Asynchronous, many of you are more comfortable asynchronous. Many of you are saying it's synchronous. Many of you are saying that I cannot choose. I'm equally comfortable with both, and therefore blended is the answer that you're saying. Thank you for that, for those comments coming in. Number 4 method is to flip your classroom. Many of you are aware of this, but I don't know how many of you are actually using this technique. This is an amazing technique, very possible in the online context where we are today. So flipped classroom, basically what we do is we teach at home through recorded classes, recorded videos, and discuss in class. So what if, just think about it, what if this webinar, instead of me coming live here, if I had asked you to watch 27 short clips, or like 3 segmented clips of methods and mindset and medium, and then the YouTube webinar was about discussion of, or a quiz based on what you learned in the previous night or 2 days ahead of time, and then the live class is all about discussions and group discussions and breakout rooms. That would have been, that would have been amazing in one sense, and that would be the flipped classroom. If that can be done in a school level, where let's say you're going to plan to teach a new lesson or a new chapter or a new unit, you want to start that on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So Monday and Tuesday, you send them preparatory resources or your own recorded videos for them to watch. And then Wednesday, first thing is a Menti Quiz on that resources, so that you make sure they learn it. You can do that as team wise and things like that. and then get into the discussion part, the applications, the inferences, the discussions, the debates, the breakout rooms. And that makes the live class much more meaningful because students have already learned the basics, the theory, and now the live class becomes the practical, the more exciting part of it. That's the flipped classroom. You study at home and you reflect and discuss in class. That's an amazing method to approach, an approach to take if you want to use that in your class. Number 5 is dynamic learning. I love this the most. This is one of my favorites. A few more are there. Dynamic learning is using the power of the internet and unleashing it for learning. And this is such a possibility in this time and age. We as teachers never had this possibility, especially in India. We didn't use the internet much for teaching. Of course, students would search for their projects and things like that, but teaching itself using the internet. What about your class having a class website? What about as an English teacher publishing your students' assignments as a blog, or maybe publishing an ebook at the end of the year with all of your students, right? If you're a Hindi teacher and students are not very interested in learning poems or writing papers for you, why not have an ebook, a Hindi ebook at the end of the year with all of your students writing? That's dynamic learning, where you're using the tools and power of the internet for collaborating, for creativity, for critical thinking, and also working together for communicating, and all of this coming together to going beyond what we normally do. And dynamic learning is here to stay. And I enjoy talking about it. We have a workshop coming up next week on dynamic learning, where we take a serious look at what can we actually do with the internet for our students, because students are on the internet. They love the internet. They are consuming it at a very high rate, many for harmful things. Why not use the same internet for creative, practical, constructive purposes? And this is a topic I love to talk about, and you're welcome to join our workshop next week. The dates will be announced at the end of this webinar, and dynamic learning is an amazing possibility. Number 6 is mastery-based learning. This is also something that I'm very passionate about, and this is something that that is very close to my heart. Just think about how we normally teach, right? Just think about it. We teach a lesson. There are 60 students in your class. Many of them get it. Many of them get it somewhat, and some don't get it. We always have these 3 categories. They teach, we teach that and they learn it. And then we have a test or an exam at the end, an assignment, something at the end of it. And then there is a grade. We grade them. Okay, we see that some of them are 90%, some are 60, 80%, some are 50, 60%, some are failed. And we grade them. Oh, you're doing very well, or you can do better. And then we look at the lower end of the students' strata and say that, hey, unless you do well, you'll not pass this year. We're going to fail you. You have to repeat the year. That's a typical approach. But what is missed out in this entire process is none of these students are given the chance to master that topic or that concept. So somebody is getting 90%, but what about the 10% that he missed? We're not talking about that after the results come out. We're going to the next lesson or the next chapter or the next year. We just move on, keep moving on, and they leave behind whatever they have not mastered in that class and move to the next set of assignments and lessons. Mastery-based learning is forcing students to stay in that level, master that concept before moving to the next level. And so for some students, they may need more time in mastering it. That's okay. We can think of multiple layers. We talk about levels of success and creating different levels of differentiation for that. We talk about that in our workshops. And one thing that you can do is give more simpler levels of resources for your smaller, slower students, and give advanced resources for your students who are doing very well. And therefore, you get the entire class to master a topic before moving on. It needs a mindset change. It needs a thought change where you as a teacher are interested in your students mastering concepts rather than just getting grades and moving on. That's an amazing methodology. We have a 2-hour workshop on that. We recently did one, and we got some amazing feedback. We'll do one more towards the end of this month, and you will get updates on that. Number 7 is problem-based learning. This is where we take the theory in the class into practical world problems and solving them. And this would mean inter-subject connectivity, right? Where students will have to think critically about things. So one of the ideas that came in one of the workshops we did recently is, why not an English teacher and a history teacher work together and assign and grade a same assignment, the history teacher looking at the facts and the English teacher looking at the grammar and structure. Why not subjects, teachers working together and giving common assignments rather than students writing multiple assignments and multiple projects for different subjects? And that's the whole idea of problem-based learning. You give them a problem which is connected to multiple subjects, and teachers collaborate together so that the class does one project and different types of grading can be done based on what they do. So a lot of possibilities are there because it's online, and so much of virtual projects and problem solvings are available. So PBL is picking up slowly in India. This is something that we love to talk about. And this is a method where you give them a problem to solve, not a maths problem, but a real life problem. And students come together to address it from different perspectives. So if it's about the lack of clean drinking water in a particular area, that involves chemistry, that involves biology, that involves geography, that involves good writing. That means they have to write it in good English. That involves public speaking, and that involves collaboration, that involves online collaboration and digital creativity. All of this in one single project, and PBL is here to stay. Number 8, the eighth methods element, right? I've been speaking for a long time. I am losing track of what I'm saying. Yes, 8 is active recall, and it's a good time to forget what I'm saying when you talk about active recall. I'm going to talk about a statement, and I want you to put it in the chat if you agree with it or not. Students today, or students for a long time, have been taught what to learn, but not how to learn. Students generally are taught what to learn, but not how to learn. So they're taught about everything they need to memorize, study, syllabus, everything is there. Do you agree with that? They're learning a lot of things. They're given the syllabus, everything is in front of them. Okay, this is the important questions and everything. They don't know what to learn, but how do I make it stick in my memory? And how do I connect the dots? How do I understand things better? How do I remember things longer? How do I focus more intently when there's so many distractions? The how to learn is often missed in our teaching styles, and many times we don't spend much time in that. And recently I came up with this course, and we published it as a company called Acing Your Exams. And in that, we were talking about this idea called active recall, spaced repetition, and things like that. These are used by college students, university students across the world. And I wish these were taught in my school when I was young. It would have made my life as a student much, much more easier. So one of the things that in active recall that we talk about is that the best way a student can learn is not by highlighting notes or making more notes or drawing flowers at the end of the notes and using yellow highlighter and all that. I mean, that's all good. You can do that. But the best way to learn is to force your brain to retrieve information by asking questions. If the students are taught how to create questions from their own notes and keep a question bank for themselves and keep testing them with those own questions that they made, that helps them recall and retain information much more than a typical Indian way of banging their heads with a notebook, walking up and down a terrace. That's not how you remember things. You might remember it till the end of the exam, but it is completely lost after that. So active recall, this is another workshop coming up next week, very interesting, that you can join. It's called The Art of Learning, and you as a teacher, I'm sure you'll find it very, very useful as you design your curriculum, the way in which you can get students to remember things longer. We often spoon feed the kids, and we follow the what to learn technique. And I'm sure if I could recommend one of our workshops, this is something that would be a lifelong asset to you. Active recall, helping students how to learn, not what to learn. Yes, you need to show them what to learn. You need to tell them what are the important points and all that. Yeah, that's all great. But more importantly, it's what more important than the what is the how, the methods to learn. So many of you are, we are mostly spoon-fed. That's what you're saying. We're telling them what to learn this, learn this, learn that. And students are also happy with that, right? What's the important question? What's the most frequently asked question? But not how to learn and the process to students. So active recall and the art of learning is something that we are really passionate about. And finally, number 9. It's called gamifying classrooms. Gamifying classrooms, and gamifying classrooms is something that that can really bring a lot of life into your online classrooms. It's something that I talk to a lot of parents, and I talk to a lot of teenage, especially teen boys and girls, and one thing that I keep asking them is, how is your online classes going? And many of the students that I talk to are from top schools in their own cities, and these are these are the envy of the town kind of schools. These are the top schools, and these are students from there. And so I've asked students in Kerala, I've asked students in Bangalore, students in Mumbai, in Delhi, in Lucknow here. And I've asked students about like how's it going, and many of their responses are very discouraging. That I don't find it stimulating, and I'm mostly sleeping, or I'm playing my games. When the online class, I just put off my video and just play my game, and there's so much of those elements that are missing in that online classroom. I'm not saying this is what's happening across the country, but these are feedback that I got. One teacher who attended our last webinar, the same webinar last week, I talked to her, and one thing she said is the first thing her son, who was in 10th grade, asked her when she said that I'm going to attend a ViGEO webinar. The first thing her son asked her is there a Menti Quiz? If there's a Menti Quiz, tell me, I'll play it for you. And so ViGEO has been become synonymous with Menti Quiz. If there's a ViGEO event, there will be a quiz, there will be a game, there'll be some fun element, and so that's how we are known as. And then every webinar, everything we have done, there is a fun element to that. And so let your classes be known like that. Oh, if it's this ma'am's class, it's going to be fun. If this sir's class, it's going to be fun. I don't know about anyone else, but this person's class, it's going to be fun. It's guaranteed fun. And that motivates you to come and attend it. I mean, I'm talking for 1.5 hours straight. If I didn't have the Menti Quiz, it would be a little difficult for many of you to focus. And so the quizzes, the gamifying elements, the leaderboards, the badges, the prizes, the intrinsic motivation, the extrinsic motivation, our natural desire to play, all of this can be harnessed, and our classes can be made much, much more interesting. And so we have entire sessions on that. I can speak for 3 hours straight on gamifying classrooms, the methods, the tools, and the various elements you can bring in. We recently had so much fun in our TGZ, Teaching Gen Z 2.0 batch that we had with our teachers. We had some phenomenal, fantastic time having some good gamifying elements. So the right mindset starts with planning for your synchronous learning, creating good or curating good asynchronous learning resources, good blend of both, deciding what is the blend. Number 4, to flip your class so that they learn at home and they discuss in class. Number 5, to harness the power of the internet to bring in so much of these modern tools that students normally love to engage, and use those to learn and move better. Number 6, mastery-based learning. You don't leave any student behind. You get them to work on a concept till they master it and move on to the next concept. There are many techniques for that. Problem-based learning, where multiple subjects and teachers can come together, give them projects that span over various topics and various subjects, and they work together. Number 8 is to teach them how to learn. If there's one thing you take from this webinar, is to think more about how can I help my students learn more? What are techniques that I can teach them? What are things that I can help them to learn how to learn, more than just spoon feeding them with what to learn? And number 9, to bring in those amazing gamifying elements. These are all possibilities. And I'm asking you this question: which of these 9 methods would you like to learn about? You can put that in the chat. I'm reading some of the comments. one of you are saying, my daughter asked me, she's attending this because of Menti. So I'm seeing some teachers attending with their kids because there is Menti. There is this fantastic round, the second round coming up. So just stay tuned, and we'll have that. So as you type in your answers, we have a special guest with us today. We have a teacher from Delhi. She's been teaching for the last 9 years, and she was recently a participant with one of our workshops. Her name is Simi Sarah Thomas, and we are privileged to have her. Simi, if you could just come online. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Hi, David.
Yes, so this is Simi ma'am from Delhi, and thank you so much for joining. And how long have you been teaching for, like, in the school?
I've been teaching since 2012.
Okay, yeah. And so it's pre-COVID, 7 years pre-COVID and second year after COVID, right?
Yes,
so,
yes.
So how was your pre-COVID days? Like, what was your strength as a teacher? Like, which grade do you teach, first of all?
I teach 4 and 5 science and maths right now.
Okay,
but I've taught 2 and 3 maths as well, and EVS, environmental sciences. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think is your strength as a teacher? Like, what do students love the most about you?
Okay, so my absolute favorite part about teaching was when their faces, they light up, when something they understand, So that was my absolute favorite part, and I would always try to simplify the concept if possible, or teach it in a different way. So I think that's my strength as a teacher.
So how do you know a student understands it? Like, you ask questions, definitely. Or you see it in their faces?
I see it in their faces sometimes, like the eyes, they just light up.
Okay.
And yes, questions, they're able to do the work that I'm giving them, maybe. And also, they're able to explain it in their own words. So that was one of the things. I'm a science teacher, so photosynthesis, if they're able to explain what is photosynthesis in their own words. So that would really,
that makes sense.
That they understood.
So to 2020 March, everything moved online. What was your first reaction?
I was excited.
Excited? Okay, that's great.
Very excited, yeah.
You can sit at home. Is that the exciting part, or the digital learning was the part?
I guess I was a bit dishonest at that question. Yeah, the first reaction was fear, because I was not able, the processing took a time. It took some time as to process that. Okay, it's a pandemic. Yes, we have to teach online. But once that set in, that I have to teach online now, I was excited to look for resources to learn new things. That's me, actually. That's how I handle things. So I was like, okay, so this has to be done. So this is how we'll do it. So that was how I did it. That is how I handled it. Yeah.
Okay. So if you could list like 1 or 2 problems, like, you are a teacher who loves to see the students' faces light up, and you love that. And then that has to be now done on a Zoom or whatever tool that you use. What was that challenge transition like? From a very personal perspective?
There was a disconnect from my students, definitely. Like, for me, the fun part was that I was part of their lives, I knew what was happening with them, and that was the disconnect for me. And I couldn't see them because videos were sometimes off, or they couldn't speak to me, because they were muted. For the sake of discipline, they were muted, so they couldn't talk to me. So these were some things that were challenging. There was definitely the work and personal life imbalance, in the sense that I was not able to set boundaries to my time, as in it was getting all mixed up. So that was taking a lot of toll on myself as a person. So those were some challenges. Yeah. Davis, I think, is stuck.
Okay, so let's keep this going.
Okay.
Yeah. So what motivated you to join the like, you were part of the Teaching GenZ 2.0.
Yes.
What motivated you to
join it? Okay, I assume that.
Could you hear?
Yeah,
Could you
yeah,
hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so sorry. So yeah, there's internet issues. Like, what was your motivation to join Teaching Gen Z 2.0? Like, after a year of teaching online, what do you think was missing in your teaching arsenal?
Yeah, I was not able to motivate myself. So I think that's what motivated me to join Teaching Gen Z. Like you said, to stay self-motivated, that was something I was struggling with. It was getting too boring for me. I wanted to use things that like I wanted to learn new resources, and your workshop really helped me out with that. Yeah. So.
Okay, so what is one big takeaway from, was it the mindset, the methods, or the medium? What is one big takeaway, or maybe a couple of takeaways from the recently concluded workshop? So just to give context, Simi and around 28 other teachers were part of TGZ last 3 days, and we had a blast, to be honest. It was a lot of fun running together. So what would be your big takeaways? How are you looking forward to the next academic year?
I'm very excited. Like there were many things that I learned that I can definitely use. For me, one of the major things that happened with me, like it's not more like learning, it was more like what happened with me was that it was a reset for my mind, like you said, mindset, right? So it was a mind reset for me. It just flipped me to say. I was blown away by the tools that you shared. I was majorly the way it was, you presented a lot of content, but the way it was presented taught me how to present my teachings. Like I was able to see how I can keep my kids engaged. So that was like I said, there was a disconnect from my students, but right now I'm like, okay, I can do this. It was very reassuring. So it was very reassuring for me. And so there were many things that I liked. Growth mindset, mastery based learning, the need for differentiated learning, the need for dynamic learning, gamifying lessons. So these are some things that I'm taking away from this particular workshop. And I had read about them, but I wasn't sure how it would work. Now I'm feeling I'm feeling that it's totally doable and possible. I'll just share one incident that happened. Sorry, Davis. When was this workshop coming? Like, when did I reach that mind blown level? Was when you shared about the website, how to make a website. And it was so simple. It was so simple that it was such a simple thing. I was thinking, why didn't I think of it? So it was like that. So that was when it blew my mind. Yeah. Really. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, these are the testimonials or like experiences that keep us motivated, that keep us want to keep doing this. Last year, when we did this Teaching Gen Z and prepared and did a lot of research, I was like, probably this is the one-time event, because maybe Corona is gone and then nobody will need this. But a year later, we have to keep, sharpening. And I enjoy researching and collecting, and because like people like you are using it with how many kids do you teach?
Right now, 100 at least.
Yeah,
like that's
I mean, we are not seeing those kids, but
Yeah,
through you, I'm sure their learning experience is going to be better this year. Much
and
better.
I mean,
than last
100 in a class. Like I have many classes. So
many
that's how
classes.
it
There you
goes.
go. That's the
Yeah.
point. That's the point.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for doing what you're
Yeah.
doing. And these are things that motivate us, and you are people that motivate us. So thank you, Simi, for whatever you're doing, and God bless you in your work.
God bless
Thanks
you too. Thank you so much.
So that was Simi, and she was sharing about what she learned in the last couple of days. So all of our workshops are very doable. Like we don't come up with these big ideas that look very nice on paper, but we come down to the nitty-gritty. And if a teacher like Simi, who's teaching small kids, can say that, hey, I'm going to make a website this year, that shows something. And it's not that difficult. It just needs that mindset change, the right methods, and the right tools. And in our workshops, we teach that. So we want to help you just take your teaching ahead. Don't look at this as a stopgap arrangement. This year Corona is gone, I'll be back to my textbook and we'll go to that old way of teaching. It's not going to happen. 2 years kids have experienced this. They will not want anything else. Even if schools open up, we will have to teach in a very new, different manner. So keep thinking of these. And I'm seeing a lot of comments. Thank you for all these comments coming in the chat. So active recall, dynamic learning, mastery-based gamifying, right? So blended learning, flipped classroom, active recall is what many of you are saying. So definitely that is, as I said, the thing that you need to reach out to your students. Let's go to the final lap of this the series. So as we heard about the workshops, we'll talk about that a little more at the end. So right medium, listen carefully. We'll have the quiz at the end, so make sure that you are attentive. So we'll have that in around 14 minutes, right? So the right medium, how do you take this mindset that you have, that you want to teach, and then the methods that you have just talked about, the various methods. And as Simi rightly said, there are so many methods. It's like a menu. It's like a buffet that you can choose and look at your students. Okay, this semester, I'm going to use more of mastery base. I can use a little bit of gaming. Next semester, I'm going to use more of dynamic learning. Towards the end of the year, I'll use a little bit of this, and we'll publish a class website, things like that. And it's about picking and choosing at the right moments of time, right? So number one is in methods, in mediums, sorry, is to use the SAMR model. So SAMR model is basically an acronym for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So it's basically looking at how to use technology in your classroom. So is it just a substitution of what you do in a normal class? And now you're doing, so you would ask them to write on a piece of paper. Now you're asking them to write it on Google Docs. So that's a substitution. Then there is augmentation, where they're writing on a Google Docs, but now you're giving comments. That is an augmented thing. That's an added functionality. So there are tools that give you that augmentation, that functionality improvement. Then there is modification. There's a complete change in the way you approach it. For example, instead of asking students to write a two-page assignment, you're asking them to create an infographic on Canva. We teach about that in our class on dynamic learning. So instead of a notebook or a Google Doc, you're now moving into infographics and posters, which students can easily make on a designing software that you can teach them. And that becomes their assignment. It's a modification, a complete change, thinking out of the box of what you were normally doing, just by adding a simple tool and hand-holding them to use that. And then there is redefinition. For example, how do you do lab experiments? How do you teach the practical aspects of physics and chemistry? How do you get them to experience a lab experiment? How do you do that online? That's a redefinition, a complete change. If you're a physical education teacher, or your school wants to get your students more healthy and active, that's a total redefinition of things of sort. It's not even substitution, augmentation, or modification. It's a redefinition. So as an educator, keep thinking of the SAMR. What can I, if this is what I want to accomplish, can I use S, A, M, or R? How do I need to approach it? That is the first way you use the medium, the SAMR model. Number two is to invest in essential gadgets. So can you just put in the chat, what is one or two things that you bought for teaching online, gadgets to teach online? Could you just put that in the chat? Because it doesn't mean that you need to spend a lot of money, but it just adds a lot more value and a lot more clarity into what you are doing. So right now I have two lights, which is focused onto my face. I have a mic here. I have a headset here. I have a UPS for like the power went out a couple of times now, but the light was on. Small things, it's not big investments, but these are small things that add value to the entire the online learning experience. So what have you spent money on, and what have you spent in buying things, right? So mic is what some of you are saying. I've bought a mic. Some of you are saying I've bought lights. Okay, so mics, lights, writing pads, right? Digital input. Okay, tripods, Bluetooth, teleprompter. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. That's the first time seeing a teacher using a teleprompter. That's pretty awesome. UPS, yes, these are some essential gadgets. Maybe a good camera, a webcam, maybe a stand, a tripod, ring lights, web cameras, right? These are small additions that bring in a lot of value. A monitor, a camera, whatever that can make those. So plan for these investments. These are investments. Definitely it costs money, but think of how you can probably save up a little money to buy some essential gadgets to just make it a little more attractive, a little more interactive. So yes, Wi-Fi, broadband, new laptop, faster net, fiber net, graphics tablet. Wow. So yes, whatever you've invested in, I'm sure you're seeing the improvements because of that. So that's number 2, investing in the essential gadgets. Number 3 is presentation tools, and many of you, I'm sure, have used PowerPoint to start with, maybe a little bit of Keynote if you use Apple, then probably moved into Google Slides, which was probably the next upgrade of using things online, sharing it. And then maybe many of you were introduced to Canva through our workshops. We promote a lot of Canva. So Canva is there. There's something called WisMe. There are a lot of these other online edit. Canva is really beautiful and very easy to use. Then we have Genially. We talk about that in our workshops, how to use Genially. That is adds a lot of interactive elements into that. And then you have Prezi, which is what I'm using right now, which can give your video and your presentation side by side. You can change things quickly. For example, I'm just editing tools I can just edit it like this and then add tools there. So I can just type in live, it will change live. All of these amazing possibilities using Prezi. So learning how to use presentation tools and bringing in that variety. So we had one workshop on visual presentation. How do you design? What are the colors you use? How does it matter? How much text? What's the font size? What's the difference? All of these things matter when it comes to teaching your students. Remember, your students, most of them are watching you on their tiny phone and the tiny phone screen. And so if you cram in a lot of information onto your screen and just put a PowerPoint out there, they're not going to get it, and it's not going to be visually pleasing. So it has to be logically, visually consistent and pleasing so that students get it. And presentation is such an amazing skill that you need to work on. The way you speak, the way you put your pauses, the way you plan it, the way you present it, what they see, what they hear, all of these things really, really matter. So I love using Prezi. This is one of my go-to tools when it comes to visual presentation. So that's number 3. So some of you saying I use a green screen. Canva is excellent. You use PPT. So if you have not used Canva, you can try using Canva. Number 4 is to use to master these live calling platforms. So for example, if you would have seen, if you are on your computer, you would have seen that I highlighted both Simi and me as we were talking, so we could come side by side. So these are all new features coming in Zoom. You can add a side by side view. So for example, if you're having a small discussion between 2 students, knowing the fact that you can highlight 2 students can make them speak side by side, and it's as if they're going to speak from one window to the other. So when a student sees that, the other students see it, they're seeing these 2 students in the center speaking to each other. A small tweak, but adds a lot of value into your live classroom. So using of chats, using of breakout rooms. Now Zoom has more features for breakout rooms. Students can select their breakout rooms. So if you divide them into teams, already they know their team numbers, divide them into breakout rooms, and they select their team and they automatically go into their room. So many new features coming in. Be updated of how your live calling platform is upgrading itself. And that's so important. This is a medium you're using. And if you're using Prezi, how do you connect Prezi to Canva, Canva to YouTube? How are these connections made? Know them, work on them, practice them. And that is a skill to work on, a medium to work on. Number 5 is to ace this art of video creation. It's so important in the days to come. So if this academic year is going to be predominantly online, the way you create videos is going to be very important. It will take a lot of pressure off you to come and do live sessions again and again. If you're able to record key parts of the lesson, arrange them accordingly, those are amazing resources you can use again and again and again. Let's say you're teaching 7th standard biology. Probably you're going to teach the 7th standard biology for the next 10 years. It's going to be probably the same set of things, a little change here and there. The core remains the same. If you can create good videos for an entire year, think of the asset it will be for the coming years. All you need is to make tweaks. All you need is to make those little changes. Use it as a flipped classroom resource. Make your live classroom amazingly creative. Even if schools open up, Students can watch the video at home and come to school the next day, and you can have a fun discussion rather than just going on the theory again and again and again. Making videos is going to be a skill of the future. So be it screen sharing, be it pointing your camera and shooting, getting a professional camera, or is it just slides and voiceover, whatever you use, video creation is something that you need to work on. So a quick question, are you confident in front of the camera? Can you just type yes or no? Are you confident in front of the camera? Has the last 1 year made you more confident? You can just type yes, no, somewhat, maybe, if you are in doubt. So just asking that question, are you confident in the camera? Some of you saying that I use KineMaster. Yes. Made a short film with my students as characters using Filmmaker. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Keep moving in that direction. Number 6 is to use good assignment tools. So assignments or homeworks can be boring and daunting. Students don't love that. They hate it. And to be really honest, very few students love doing their assignments. But there are so many creative ways to use assignments, so many tools that we have introduced. In last TGZ, we talked about word wall and Flippity and many other things. And over the last 1 year, I was so overwhelmed with the amount of free tools that are available to make homeworks so interesting. And we did this TGZ 2.0 last week, and towards the end, people were asking for assignments. What's the assignment for day 3? I gave assignment for day 1 and 2. Day 3 we were ending, so I didn't plan for assignments. But I had requests coming in. What is the assignment for today? Give us some homeworks. Give us some assignment to do, because there was the team scores and a leaderboard and all that. It was very exciting for them. So assignments can be fun. Just imagine if your students at the end of your Zoom class saying, "Ma'am, aaj kuch assignment nahi hai. Are you not going to give us some assignment today?" Because they enjoy doing it, let's say on WordWall or Bluecat or Gimcat or any of the other tools that you use. These are possibilities that you can think of. So let your assignments and homeworks be something students look forward to. Number 7 is to use live interaction tools. So I'm using 2 live interactions. For example, I'm using the chat, which is on my phone on YouTube here, and I'm using the Prezi for this interaction. I'm getting, you're seeing my presentation here. Then I am using the Mentimeter for the quiz. So these are all various things, and I'm planning it. I planned for Simi to come in at around 6:30. That was an intentional plan. So first break is the first round of Menti, then there is Simi coming in talking, and then there's the last round of Menti. All of these needs planning. And so your live sessions need planning, and you can use a lot of interaction tools for getting it done. So the beautiful thing about Prezi is right now you see that I'm an OCD person when it comes to what's on screen. So I is not capitalized. Let me just change that. And that's how easy it is to change things on Prezi. So live interaction, very possible on even using Prezi and Mentimeter and many other tools. So Zoom polls, Zoom chats, and quizzes, and all of these are beautiful ways to interact. Number 8 is collaboration tools. 2 days back, we had our teams in Teaching Gen Z draw a picture, make a mind map. So I divided them to breakout rooms and gave them a Jamboard link. And they were created like 3 different pages there, and they had to do a group drawing. So they were in their group breakout rooms. They have the link, and they had to coordinate who's going to draw, who's going to give inputs. So one person became the drawing person, and they just start typing and all that. The other person started giving outline. The other person gave in ideas. 5 people giving so much inputs, and a beautiful picture came out at the end, all in 5 minutes. And I was just wondering, if I'd given this assignment to my students separately, nobody would be interested to make a drawing in 5 minutes. Oh, who cares? But when it became a team event, and something they had to submit as a team, immediately it became an instant hit. So you can have these live drawings, live brainstormings, and mind mapping and all that happening in your Zoom class within 5 or 6 minutes or 10 minutes, using these collaboration tools. So Padlet is something we use, Jamboard is something we use. All of these tools are something that adds a lot of value into collaboration. And finally, it's important to master the elements, whatever software you are using. It could be Google Classroom or it could be Microsoft Teams or just WhatsApp or Google Drive, whatever you use for your own setting up. It's important to master that, because these things keep on updating, and so you need to be aware of that. So all of these things are available for us to use. So starting with the SAMR model, deciding what level you want to use, or investing in gadgets that will make your teaching better, or getting your presentation tool, sharpening them so that what students see on screen is much more engaging and visually pleasing. Number 4, thinking about how to tweak and harness the power of your live calling platform and make it more interactive, making better videos, be it screen shared resources or live recorded videos, whatever that you are that you want to work on, getting more skills in that, working on that. Number 6 is how to make your assignments much more interactive and what students look forward to. And number 7 is the live interaction tools like quizzes, like polls, like teamworks and live drawing and things like that, where they can collaborate together, bring in ideas together, make a question bank together. We talked about that in one of our sessions. These are all possibilities that you as a teacher can explore. And of course, knowing how to make the most of your learning management software. There are options in Google Classroom that allows you to send different set of assignments to different students. That's a good way to digital differentiate. That's a good way to encourage mastery-based learning. All of these are interconnected. You need the mindset, first of all, then you need the methods, then you need the medium to use it. This is a list of tools that we taught in the last 2 weeks. These are just from the last 2 weeks. I have much more, but these are the tools that we taught in the last 6, 1 course and 5 workshops. Yeah, 1 course and 5 workshops. So that's total of 6 events. And these are things that we taught. So many tools out there. But let me give you this thing. It's not about these tools. Even if you know all these tools or you have accounts in all these tools, not going to make any difference unless you have the mindset to be willing to reach out to your students and make it much more engaging for them, to empathize with them and to connect with them. Then go for a good framework methods to implement that, be it gamifying, mastery, dynamic, or flipped or blended. Some method that you have mastered and you want to implement that. And then these tools that you see on screen, then implementing them makes sense. So it's not just downloading some tools or making an account that will make a difference. It's the mindset that leads to the methods, that leads to the medium or the tools here. So this is something that we want to open it up for you. We have Rob Smythe, the director of ViGEO, who will speak to us, and we are open to do these workshops, and we enjoy doing this workshop, designing these workshops. These are some things that we have found that have helped teachers over the last 1 year. And so we believe in what we do, we love what we do, and we want to make sure that this reaches you in the best manner possible. Over to Rob.
Well, thank you, David.